Good afternoon, grade 10. Previously, we studied about financial statements. Our next lesson is analysis of accounts. We will learn how to interpret the financial performance of a business by calculating and analyzing profitability and liquidity ratios. So how do we interpret financial statements? We use ratios to interpret financial statements. Ratios allow businesses to look at its financial performance. It allows a business to judge business results, identify trends in performance over time, make comparisons with similar companies, and make decisions. Let us first have the two types of ratios, profitability ratios and liquidity ratios. Profitability measures how much profit a business makes. As profit is a key objective for a private sector business, stakeholders want each ratio to increase. Liquidity is the ability of a business to pay back its short-term debts. If a business cannot pay its suppliers for materials that are important to production, or if the business cannot repay an overdraft when required to, it is said to be illiquid. Illiquid means that assets are not easily convertible to cash. The business it owes money to may force it to stop trading and sell its assets so that the debts are repaid. Let us first have profitability ratios. Gross profit margin, net profit margin, and return on capital employed. Gross profit margin. Gross profit margin is calculated by dividing gross profit by revenue and multiplying the result by 100. This shows how much profit a business makes after allowing for cost of sales. There are two ways to improve gross profit margin. First is to increase revenue, sell more or increase prices, but maintain cost of sales. The second one is to cut cost of sales by lowering wages or materials costs. The second one is the net profit margin. So to find the net profit margin, we need to do net profit divided by revenue times 100. This is used to show how well expenses are controlled. There are two ways to improve profit margin. First is to increase revenue more than expenses, and the second one is to reduce expenses while maintaining level of sales. So the third profitability ratio is return on capital employed. Net profit divided by capital employed times 100 is how we find return on capital employed. This measures the amount of profit made for each dollar invested. The ratio is helpful to investors and managers as it shows how efficiently capital is used. How to improve ROCE? So first, they can make better use of capital employed without reducing profit, or increase profit with the same amount of capital employed. Now we have liquidity ratios. We have current ratios and acid test ratio. Let's start with current ratios. Current ratio is current assets over current liabilities. This shows whether the business can pay its current liabilities out of its current assets. If the result is higher compared to the previous data, then the business is better able to pay short-term debts. The other one is the acid test ratio. Acid test ratio is calculated by subtracting inventory from the current assets and then divide the answer by the current liabilities. This shows the ability of the business to pay its short-term debts, excluding the value of inventory. If the result shows that it is lower than the one from the previous data, then the business is less able to pay short-term debts unless inventory can be sold. But of course, ratio analysis also has its limitations. Ratios only act as a guide to help decision making. Ratios are based on past results, so it still cannot predict the future. To be useful, ratios must be compared to previous years to identify trends or against similar businesses to assess competitiveness. There are many ways to measure asset values. This will affect results. Businesses have different liquidity requirements, and ratios only consider financial data. Other factors can also affect a business's performance. Thank you for listening. I hope you are able to understand how financial statements are interpreted by calculating and analyzing ratios. Have a great day.